Hey folks, welcome to Verified Investing Alerts, Trade Setups and Action video. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here. All right, folks, I want to get into some action here. I know a lot of you guys are curious about my latest Bitcoin views, so we are going to take a look at Bitcoin. We're going to get right into it, right into the charts, and we will see exactly what we can find. So number one, the first thing I have to say is yesterday we broke 30,000, but remember, do not worry so much about a break of a level versus a daily close with confirmation. Now, I'm going to teach a webinar in about 2 weeks, so you'll start hearing about it probably either Friday or Monday coming up about confirmation. It is an unbelievably important tactic that basically signals whether or not it's a true breakout or a fake out. And when I say fake out, I'm talking institutional, folks. Institutions know people were looking for that 30,000 break. There was a ton of stops underneath that level. When it flushed below, those stops triggered. The institutions gobbled up all those Bitcoin and then ripped it right higher. Know those games, folks. Once you see a close below in confirmation, you can be almost 100% assured, not 100%, but almost 100% assured it's a real breakdown. So here's your neckline here, pivot point, and then right through here, you could see yesterday we pierced it and they saved it with Bitcoin trading around 33,433. So basically, everything I've said about Bitcoin right now continues to hold true. And what was that? Well, as long as you don't close and confirm below 30,000, Bitcoin can go sideways and even rally up. And I'm still in the camp that there's still even a chance for Bitcoin to even go as high as 48 to 50,000 before the next leg lower. Now, I don't know, to be honest, if it's going to get that high, but I just want to be clear. As long as we haven't confirmed below that 30,000 level, it's still a possibility. All right. So again, as a technical trader, everything on the chart is telling you what to do or what to expect. And remember, as a trader, it's all about probabilities. You want to be the house. You want to be the casino. You want to have the odds generally in your favor. And therefore, when you do 100 trades or 1,000 trades, you're going to make money. You're going to make millions over the course of your life. You don't want to be the gambler where the odds are slightly against you or 50-50. So that's why we use the charts, because a break point, a confirmation below 30,000 tells us the likely scenario is for a move down to 24,000 and change right here. And then this gap fill, which would be the big level, which is around 18,000 and change, give or take. I'm sure 20,000 will have some support just because of the even number as well. But again, as long as we stay above this level, you could easily float up, at least retest these levels, maybe even go a little bit higher and get close to 50,000. Now, if you get to 50,000, you'll see sentiment start to turn very, very bullish. And that actually can be a negative indicator for Bitcoin, because again, I think one of the reasons why you didn't necessarily see a major breakdown is because everyone was looking for that, expecting it. You know, after I made the call for a move to 30,000 a month ago, and we did exactly that, then you started to hear everyone out there, all the analysts talking about 20,000. And anytime you hear 20,000 or a lower target being talked about in the media, it's almost obvious that they're going to whip you the other way first before it goes there, even if it is going to go there. All right, so that's your analysis update on Bitcoin. I do want to get you guys involved in a few other things here. So let's talk about what the markets are doing. So we've seen the markets rip down on Friday, then bounce back pretty nicely over the last couple days. Today's much more of a flat day. And the key here is when you're going to the spiders, we're going to take a look at the spiders now. Let's flip over to the SPY. You have to notice that this trend line right here, right? So you broke below on Friday, then you recaptured it yesterday and you're trading right alongside it. Now, again, if you're privy to the confirmation signal, which again, I will teach in a webinar. Now, I wasn't planning on doing the webinar, folks, but there's been so much demand and people asking, what is confirmation? How do I look for confirmation? That honestly, I just put it on my schedule. I haven't solidified the day yet, but right around the 15th of July, maybe a little bit after, a little bit before, I will make sure to do a webinar. It'll probably be about a 2-hour course where we'll go in depth on that and maybe a few other key tactics that'll help you guys master true breakdowns versus fake ones. Same thing, it works on the way up, true breakouts or fake breakouts. But one thing you can see here is you closed below this line, but you didn't confirm, and it was a little rope-a-dope. They pushed it right back up to fool people, and now it's right underneath or right above that line. If and when You go back below that line, look for confirmation, look for the daily close, then confirmation, and then kaboom, you are going to go down dramatically. In my opinion, I think in the very least, you head to the 200 moving average, which is right around 380 on the spiders. So keep an eye on that. Now, a couple stocks I want to talk about here. Number one, Viacom. Viacom is having a nice push here. Take a look today, up about almost 5%, which for Viacom is actually a pretty big move. But look at the intraday here. There was something that happened here. I don't know if it was Reddit related or not, but a big pop-up 3-bar surge on Viacom. And the reason why I've been so bullish on Viacom, it has all the hallmarks of being a potential Reddit runner, meaning that I think the short percentage on Viacom is something close to 20%. And then the stock is hovering at levels that make it very attractive. You know, you're talking about a forward PE of 9 to 10. You're talking about a dividend paying stock paying about 2.5% dividend. We know David Tepper's in it. We know Dan Niles. David Tepper is one of the most well-respected, as is Dan Niles, in the industry of the hedge fund. They're long those stocks as well. And I always like to position myself generally with big money on the long side. You know, if big money like that and smart money like that is on the long side, generally you can figure that, you know, you're going to do pretty well. Now, I want to show you a couple levels I'm watching on Viacom. All right. So number one, you have a very clear top here area to watch for a breakout. So pivot high here. You kissed it right here. You're looking just above 43. Notice the high today, just shy of 43. If you can get a daily close with confirmation above 43, you are going to go straight to 48. All right. 48 would be your next resistance. If you get through 48, you are going to go as high as this, which is $56. And by the way, at $56, the stock is then kind of in the average range of most of these other people in its peer group in terms of valuation. It's right now, its streaming service is going gangbusters, and it's not even being valued at even zero. So, I mean, there's huge potential upside on this. Now, should it ever have been at $100? No, absolutely not. Should have never been that high. But obviously down here in the 40s, the low 40s, it probably shouldn't have been that low either. All right. So again, keep an eye on that in terms of the Reddit crowd. I do think that this could be one that they get their talons in. It makes all the sense in the world with a good valuation play. I also think that, and you can see this little underlying support level here, and then you can kind of see the wedge pattern starting to form. So we'll watch to see if it breaks out. But the other thing to keep an eye on here is that you're now hearing that Netflix isn't really growing, and Viacom honestly would be a very attractive potential merger or acquisition for Netflix. You could also look at someone like Comcast. Now, whether or not the regulators approve of Comcast, they might not, but with Discovery, you know, DISCA merging with HBO Max, there has to, you know, basically Viacom's one of the few behemoths left, and it's going to get gobbled up. So you also have that potential for a buyout as well, which is very interesting. All right, enough on that. Let's talk about AMC. As long as we're talking about the Reddit crowd, I do want to touch base on AMC. So AMC is showing me some warning signs that it could be getting close to a dip. The warning signs are kind of not things that normal investors would pay attention to here. All right, so number one, the volume. The volume is starting to fall dramatically. What does that mean? Why is volume falling so dramatic? And you can see here today, if we show the chart again, you can see the volume today is just over 100 million, and we only have 45 minutes to the day close. This stock traded close to 1 billion shares back over here. So you can see over here on the daily chart, the volume is waning. Now, the issue with that is that the lower the volume on this stock, it means that the small investor is kind of using up all their capital or not as interested anymore. And the reason that's a negative is because when the volume gets light enough, the big institutions can start to push it around. And it's very likely, knowing that the short positions that big institutions have in this, it's very likely that an institution, when the volume gets low enough, will say, okay, I can tank this thing by, you know, shorting a bunch of shares, or maybe even a couple hedge funds, and they can drive this thing. And once the collapse begins, and let's say we take out $40 to the downside, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to, you know, the 30s and then the 20s, as everyone else, all the Redditors, or at least some of them, start to pile out. All right, now you guys know I haven't been a huge fan of AMC on the long side. In fact, I do have some shares short. But overall, I think, again, this is just something you want to be aware of because of the lower volume. The other thing is, I don't know how it's going to react to this, but there is rebalancing on Friday. And rebalancing is basically where a lot of these funds that had a percentage, you know, like the Russell and so forth, they had a percentage allocated prior, you know, from the last quarter of how many shares they had of AMC in that fund. And the thing is, that fund, like the Russell, is now almost ruled by AMC, the IWM. And I don't know exactly the impact, but if these funds have to bring their allocations down on AMC, it could be a fair amount of selling, and that rebalancing occurs on Friday. And again, I don't for sure know. I'm not going to pretend to give you guys any nonsense. I don't know for sure how this is going to play out, but it is a risk going into this Friday. Remember, rebalancing happens on the last Friday of the month, of the quarter, I should say. And that is this Friday. So that is just another kind of thing that you want to pay attention to into Friday. We also want to know about the gamma side of things. For those of you that don't know about the gamma trade, basically that's where, smaller investors are buying way out of the money calls, which then causes the institutions that are selling those options to buy the stock to protect themselves. What happens is when you have Fridays where expiration occurs on options, once they expire, those institutions then unload those shares as well. And that can also be a pressurized situation. So anyways, I just think the next couple of days could be very, very interesting on AMC. And I think the lower volume, even in terms of the gamma trade or in terms of the end of quarter rebalancing, with the lower volume, that can create a much bigger move in the stock. I guess it could go either way, but in general, the rebalancing would be unloading some shares to bring that percentage of the portfolio that has gotten way out of whack because of AMC's move, it would bring it back in line. So anyways, just my 2 cents there on a couple different things on AMC. We talked about Viacom, we talked about Bitcoin. I'm going to get going now, folks, but thank you as always for tuning in to Verified Investing, Trade Setups, and Action videos. I do my best to convey my knowledge to you guys. Have a great one. Take care.